There was a time when football positions were almost absolute. A striker stayed up front. Midfielders controlled the center of the pitch. Defenders rarely crossed the halfway line. The field itself felt divided into clearly defined territories, and every player had a specific area to occupy and a single responsibility to fulfill. But modern football changed all of that. Over the last 2 decades, the game has undergone a tactical revolution. Coaches began questioning the idea that players should remain tied to fixed positions. As pressing systems became more sophisticated and teams searched for new ways to gain advantages, football evolved into something far more fluid. Players started rotating, drifting into unexpected spaces, and taking on responsibilities that once belonged to entirely different positions. Today, it is common to see a striker dropping into midfield, a defender stepping into central areas, or a midfielder appearing in both penalty boxes within the same sequence of play. The traditional boundaries between positions have blurred, and modern football is now defined more by roles than by positions. One of the clearest examples of this transformation is the rise of the false nine. For generations, the number 9 had a straightforward job. Stay close to goal, occupy center backs, and finish chances. The striker was the team's reference point in attack, the player waiting in advanced areas for service from teammates. As defensive structures became more organized and pressing systems more aggressive, coaches began searching for ways to disrupt defensive lines. Instead of asking the striker to stay high, they encouraged him to drop deeper into midfield. This movement forced opposing center backs into an uncomfortable decision. Should they follow the striker and leave space behind them, or should they hold their position and allow him time on the ball? Either choice created problems. When defenders stepped forward, spaces opened for wingers and attacking midfielders to attack. When defenders stayed back, the striker could turn and help orchestrate attacks. The role became less about scoring goals and more about creating opportunities for everyone else. Few players demonstrated this concept better than Roberto Firmino during Liverpool's most successful years under Jurgen Klopp. While many strikers were judged primarily by goals, Firmino's value came from his movement, intelligence, and ability to connect every phase of Liverpool's attack. He wasn't simply a finisher, he was a creator of space. The significance of the false nine goes beyond one position. It challenged one of football's oldest assumptions, that the striker should always be closest to goal. In doing so, it proved that sometimes the most dangerous attacker is the one moving away from the penalty area rather than toward it. A similar reimagining occurred in defense. For many years, fullbacks operated primarily along the touchline. Their responsibilities were clear: defend the wing, stop opposing wingers, and occasionally provide crosses from wide areas. The center of the pitch belonged to midfielders. Modern coaches saw things differently. As possession-based football became increasingly dominant, controlling the middle of the pitch became essential. Teams constantly searched for numerical superiority in midfield, looking for ways to create extra passing options and maintain control of the ball. The solution arrived from an unexpected source: the fullback. Instead of remaining wide, some fullbacks began moving into central midfield whenever their team had possession. These players effectively became additional midfielders during the build-up phase while still retaining their defensive responsibilities when possession was lost. This tactical adjustment allowed teams to create stronger structures in midfield without sacrificing defensive balance. It also transformed the skill set required for the position. Modern fullbacks could no longer rely solely on athleticism and defensive instincts. They needed vision, technical ability, and tactical awareness comparable to midfielders. Kyle Walker's role at Manchester City became one of the best examples of this evolution. His pace and defensive reliability gave him the freedom to occupy central spaces while still providing protection against counterattacks. Under Pep Guardiola, the fullback position became something entirely different from what previous generations had known. The importance of the inverted fullback lies in how completely it erased the traditional divide between defense and midfield. It showed that defenders could become playmakers and controllers of possession without losing their defensive identity. The same tactical revolution also transformed the role of the playmaker. Traditionally, creative players operated high up the pitch as number 10s. Their job was to receive the ball between the lines, find space behind midfielders, and create chances near the opposition's penalty area. They were the artistic center of the team. As pressing intensified across Europe, however, these advanced areas became increasingly crowded. Creative players found themselves constantly surrounded and aggressively challenged. Coaches responded by moving their most gifted passers deeper. Rather than receiving the ball near the opposition's box, these players began collecting possession just in front of their own defense. From these deeper positions, they could see the entire field, dictate the tempo of the game, and launch attacks before pressure could arrive. This role became known as the deep-lying playmaker, or regista. No player embodied this evolution better than Andrea Pirlo. During his years at AC Milan, Pirlo demonstrated that a playmaker did not need to operate high up the pitch to influence a game. His passing range, vision, and composure allowed him to control matches from positions traditionally associated with defensive midfielders. His success changed perceptions across football. It proved that creativity could originate from the deepest areas of the team and that the most important pass in an attack might come from a player standing just ahead of his own defenders. While some roles became more specialized, others demanded greater versatility than ever before. The box-to-box midfielder emerged as one of the most physically and tactically demanding roles in modern football. Unlike specialists who focus primarily on attacking or defending, these players are expected to contribute everywhere. In a single match, they may make tackles near their own penalty area, carry the ball through midfield, arrive late in the opponent's box, press aggressively after losing possession, and then sprint back to recover defensively. Their influence stretches from one end of the field to the other. Steven Gerrard represented this role at its highest level. During his prime years at Liverpool, he combined technical quality, leadership, physical power, and relentless work rate. He could score goals, create chances, win duels, and organize the team without being confined to any single responsibility. The box-to-box midfielder reflects one of modern football's most important ideas: versatility has become a premium skill. In a game increasingly defined by constant transitions, players who can perform multiple functions often provide the greatest value. Then there is the wingback, perhaps the clearest symbol of how dramatically football positions have evolved. In traditional back four systems, fullbacks were always caught between two responsibilities. They needed to support attacks while remaining cautious enough to defend. Their attacking contributions were often limited by defensive obligations. The widespread adoption of three center-back systems changed everything. With additional defensive cover behind them, wingbacks gained unprecedented freedom. They could push high up the field, attack aggressively, and become major sources of creativity without constantly worrying about leaving their defense exposed. Modern wingbacks often resemble wingers as much as defenders. They deliver crosses, create chances, attack the penalty area, and sometimes contribute significant goal totals over the course of a season. Theo Hernandez has become one of the best examples of this modern role. His ability to drive forward, create opportunities, and score goals while still contributing defensively demonstrates how far the position has evolved. The wingback effectively created a new type of footballer, a player who combines the defensive foundation of a fullback with the attacking instincts of a forward. Taken together, these roles reveal a broader truth about today's game. Football no longer respects the rigid positional boundaries that once defined it. The striker can become a midfielder. The defender can become a playmaker. The midfielder can become both an attacker and a defender within the same sequence. What once seemed unconventional has become normal. The modern game rewards intelligence, adaptability, and tactical flexibility more than ever before. Players are no longer defined solely by where they start on a team sheet but by how they move, interpret space, and influence different phases of play. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that this evolution is still ongoing. Every season brings new tactical ideas, new hybrid roles, and new ways of challenging football's traditional assumptions. The revolution is not over. The next role that changes the game may already be taking shape somewhere on a training ground today.